We are live. It's another great day with a Cribble live stream. So great to be here. It's always so much fun. Really excited with today's show. We're going to have Anna Casey and Emily Archer, and they're going to discuss something near and dear to my heart. I think this is incredibly important. Too many times when we work with customers implementing Cribble tools, it's all about the technology, which is great. You got a bunch of engineers together. People are going to talk about, how do I solve my problems technically? But there's not enough discussion on how do we make the technical project successful. That's the people, the process. The things that many technical people just don't really want to talk about, so maybe a little boring, but it's how you have an enduring program. It's how ultimately you have success with the business. So thrilled to be here and thrilled to have this conversation. So Anna, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, then followed by Emily?
Sure. Thanks, Ed. Hi, I'm Anna Casey. I'm a UX researcher here at Cribble, and I get the very distinct privilege of giving a talk at CriblCon with Emily Archer.
And what's the talk going to be about?
The title is Becoming a Better Data Engineer, asking the right questions to deliver better data and experiences. So this is born from both of our experience, Emily on the practitioner side and the customer success side. And then on my side as the UX researcher, really having to delve into the why behind what people ask us for in our roles so that we can do a better job of actually meeting the needs that sometimes go unspoken, sometimes go undiscovered. But
So,
Emily, oh, go ahead.
no, sorry. And Emily, why don't you go introduce yourself and talk about from your perspective?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Emily Archer. I am a customer advocate here at Cribble, but formerly I was a customer success engineer and a SIM practitioner before I joined Cribble. So I have a lot of experience with those tickets that come in that say, I want this thing. You solve the problem and realize, oh, that's not actually what they want. They needed something different. So I was able to start incorporating a little bit of questions at the beginning when I got those kind of nebulous tickets and deliver those better experiences when I was a SIM practitioner, and I took that along my career at Kerbal.
That's awesome. And just to give everyone a little context, we're coming up, we're going to have CribbleCon. So go to cribble.io/CribbleCon and you're going to get the details. We're going to be at National Harbor this year. It's going to be really exciting. A multi-day show. The first day, we're going to have full day of training, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then 2 days of a conference, 2 days of conference. And Ann and Emily are going to give a fantastic presentation together. And so let's go back in the background. So Emily, Anna, can you give some stories? Like what led you to want to give this talk?
So from my side,
Okay.
a lot of times when I'm meeting with customers, right, we're talking about a specific topic for a feature that's maybe in progress on the Cribble side, right? We're going to improve something in Stream, or we're releasing a new experience in Search. And we'll get to the end of a session where I've gone through and asked a lot of really specific, really deep questions about the customer's experience. And at the end, they'll say, I need to do more of this in my own role. And they'll talk about trying to understand what the end users of the data, right, that they are working on for the engineering side need. And just to exactly Emily's point, say things like, I delivered it exactly like they told me to, and it didn't quite meet the need, and I was a bit stumped. So I've actually had folks ask me for advice on how they could improve their own kind of question and answering, how they could improve maybe their experience around prototyping and getting some feedback early in what they're building. And so because Emily and I also speak very regularly, I brought this up to her and she said, yeah, this is also my experience, and I think this could be a really great talk. But I'll let Emily say more.
Yeah, I think that as Anna and I collaborate, it kept coming up, right? The idea of, okay, the technology, it works, it just works. But what do you actually need to do with it, and how do you impact change? And really, it starts with our data stakeholders. It starts with the people that need things from this data. And knowing my experience managing a sim tool, I didn't necessarily know the ins and outs of what my stakeholders exactly needed, but with a few questions, I could find it. And so we kind of came up with this idea of marrying Anna's UX research background with what our customers are doing day to day.
Yeah, and I think that's outstanding. And just to give a little background, Emily was a customer success engineer, had many, many customers. So you got to see really in depth what customers were doing, what they're doing with their data, the questions they were or were not asking about why am I doing this? What's the value? And so Emily has an amazing background for this kind of talk. And Anna does something that's completely underappreciated. I think that every company should have a UX person interviewing customers to find out how can we make our tool easier to use. But this would also explain why so many enterprise tools have terrible UXs because they're not doing it. But Anna spends all her time talking to customers, and they're so impressed. I can't tell you how many have come to me and said we've never had this happen before. I mean, this really sets Cribble apart, and so it just gives you
That's
that
great to hear.
experience of what customers are looking to do, why, and I think that's the big question. Always ask why are you doing this? What's the value to the business? Emily, Anna, can y'all either share some questions? What should someone ask when they're looking at data? In order, what are a couple of the first questions without giving too much away?
I'll let Emily go first, actually.
So, coming from the practitioner side, a lot of times it started with who is this for? Who
Yeah.
are we solving this problem for? Because I would have incident responders submit a dashboard on behalf of their leadership. And what I would create for an incident responder would probably be very different than what I would create for their leadership. So that was always one of my first things, is understanding who is this for and what are they trying to accomplish? Anna, how would you dive more?
Definitely. That tracks from my side as well. It's like who is our target, user or customer, who's actually going to be hands on keys with the thing, or the one actively utilizing whatever it is we're building. I'd also say, to take it a step further, there's what they're trying to accomplish with it, and then there's the context in which they're trying to accomplish it. So let's take an incident responder, for example. Oftentimes under very high pressure, need to figure something out, right? Especially if it's a critical incident, need that data very quickly, don't have time to learn a new tool, right? Are probably working across 4 to 5 different tools. Like, all of that context, while it may not seem immediately obvious why you would need to know it, it changes things from my perspective of how we approach the user experience. A tool needs to be something that they can pick up very quickly, right? It needs to be something that they don't need to click through 5 times to get to the most important information. Those are just kind of simple examples, but the context can really tell you a lot about how you would then turn around and approach building the solution.
And that's a great way to look at it. And I think that's what's so key with the Cribble user experience, to help lead people to water. And this is where I think that having that guided walkthrough, especially with Copilot, to help get ask those standard set of questions in order to create a more predictable and just a better experience.
I think that's a great example too, Ed, of, oftentimes when we think about like integrations within our own product, there's information that folks need to have to configure those integrations, right? And Emily and I have talked about this at length. Knowing upfront what information you need to provide the system so that the system can help you solve that problem is something that you think about with UX. To use an example that's maybe outside of data entirely, I think about like preparing my taxes. And the first time I had to use tax preparation software, and I sat down and was like, okay, I'm going to knock this out in 30 minutes. But I didn't have all the documents because I was naive. But the system tells me, you need your W-2, you need this, right? And so then I ran off to go find all of those things, and it took much longer for me to figure it out. But those are the sorts of user experience pieces, you build maybe that expertise as you go, but anytime you're coming into a new space or a new, let's say, integration, you may not have that knowledge. And so the more that something like a Copilot or even just the interface itself can help guide you or give you that heads up of the information you need to go gather, those are the kinds of things that make transitions into a product really smooth.
That's a great idea. So we have a question from the audience. Can a university grad start with a data engineering role, or first should they start as a data analyst and then as they get more experience graduate to being a data engineer? Emily, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I can. So just a little background about me. I started my career in IT project management. So I think that the path sometimes it can weave its way around. However, I think it is really important to have a fundamental knowledge of IT as part of being a data engineer. So some of the things that I've seen for recent grads trying to move into that field is working at an IT help desk and then driving into kind of some networking functionality, and then maybe moving into security or an observability SRE DevOps kind of role is sort of the progression that I think a lot of people take. And it's similar to mine. Yes, uh, I started in IT project management, specialized in security project management, started working with a SOC to get the security knowledge. I specialized with security, of course, and eventually was able to move into the SIM space.
Yeah, and I think that's well said. And I think a broad level of experience is really important. Anna, anything you want to share?
I'm deferring to Emily's expertise. I've never been in a data engineering role or a data analyst role, so.
Yeah, and it's really tricky. This is a good example. I mean, I started out in law, and this is something where I think it's just the idea is, I think the fundamental thing is an understanding of data. Separate the data from the technology. Technology's changed, data's data, and then this is the idea. The kind of questions you can ask, the discipline of how to be successful with data is very important. And this is where having the fundamentals of data is really important, because having that long understanding can then help you leverage tools to help you with your business aims. I think it's, start with your data instead of starting with your tools, and that's the best way to be successful.
Okay.
Now, you're
Agreed.
coming from a tool vendor, but I'm saying start with your data. You
For
know,
sure.
because
It's the
that's
key thing.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's how you're going to do it. Understand your requirements, and this is very underappreciated. But also always ask yourself, why does the business care? If the
Yep.
business doesn't care about the question that you're asking or the data that you're asking, then you have to ask yourself, is there business value in what you're doing? A lot of times we go into very expensive projects where you're spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands, and with certain customers, millions of dollars on tooling and storage and collecting data. And you have to very carefully ask yourself, because I guarantee you the individuals who are writing the checks for these projects are asking. And you make sure you want to have a very clear and very concise answers of why should your business leaders fund these projects and why do they care.
Mhm. That's a really great point. I think one question that I usually ask too when I'm doing discovery is how do you define success? So if we're looking at a specific workflow, what does success look like for you at the end of that specific workflow? And it's the same question you could ask of a data end user who's asking you to create a dashboard or create an alert for them. Like, what's success look like if I delivered the thing that you needed? Because that sometimes teases out, right, more about what those requirements are and the expectations for use, and ultimately what's going to get people to adopt or use the thing that you're building. If it helps them make the decision, if it helps them reduce some cost, if it helps them reduce a mean time to resolution, there's some metric there that they're thinking about, right, that's meaningful to the business or to their operations. And that's usually the measure of success that they're going to judge whatever technical implementation you give them.
Yeah, I think that's a great middle model to apply. Emily, so you know all about data onboarding. What kind of questions would you ask? Say I say, hey, bring you a data set. I want you to onboard this data into the SIM or data lake. What kind of questions would you ask me in order to justify the value of the effort?
So typically, it would start with who's asking for this data? Where does it need to live? Is the SIM the end all be all? Who's searching this data? Um, I had a common problem with app teams read a standard that said the data needed to be sent to security, and that was their interpretation of the standard, right? And so they'd come to us and they'd want to onboard data, and the security team would take a look at it and be like, oh yeah, this is debug logs, we don't necessarily need this. But so asking some of those questions beforehand could help us make the right decision on where this data should go. Because while I was on security focus, we did have we had application performance monitoring. We had tools that were not managed by security that would better suit those users if they were just trying to get access to their data. Then from there, it would be what goal does this align to? We usually had several security initiatives that required onboarding of new data sets. And so we'd make sure to match that up and properly document it and have all of that information in our pocket for when it came time for justification of cost.
Very good. So, would requirements like records requirements, retention requirements, would that come into play as well?
It would, yes. When I was at my prior employer, we were subject to New York DFS, the financial services regulations. So there was specific data that even if we weren't necessarily using it, we were sending it to an object store or something like that to ensure that we had the retention requirements fulfilled. And it gave us the option to eventually evaluate that data for further security use cases down the line, but it didn't necessarily have to go into the SIM.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I think those are and it was business value or perception of business value. Who made that final call?
As a security practitioner, it really came from our fusion center. So the responders were really the ones that were making the final call. So we fell under the same organization, and so it was our budget that was using the SIM was under the security budget, and so we prioritized the security valuable data versus anything else, the business value data, which could go to the application performance type tools or could go to object store for evaluation later. So it was security centric decision making.
Okay, totally. All right, so I think we're coming to the end. So anything you want to say to wrap up?
I come to our talk. Come to CriblCon and come to our talk. Yeah, I think I feel very strongly and passionately about just what we said at the top, that the people and the processes part oftentimes gets left behind sometimes in our thinking about when we're building solutions, and who we build them for, like Emily said, is one of the first things we should be asking about, what they're trying to accomplish, how they define success. You'll be amazed at how some simple changes in the way that you approach those kinds of conversations will impact the adoption and the usefulness ultimately of the data that you're delivering. So yeah, come to our talk.
Hey, well said. Emily, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I just want to add to Anna's thoughts. I completely agree with that. I think from the practitioner side, one of the things that I hope you guys come away with is that asking these questions up front is hopefully going to save you so much time and rework And that's really the value at your level, because it can sting when you do something and then next sprint you got to redo it. So I hope you come away with strategies to help reduce that happening.
It's well said, and this is something I love about CribbleCon talks. I mean, this is real, actual, valuable information. This isn't marketing nonsense. Isn't the product that's never going to be delivered. This is actual things that can help. I mean, almost any project. I think that anyone who's dealing with data and IT or security has to ask these questions, and so I think this is critically important. All right, so now let's have a quick overview of CribbleCon. So just sharing this out. So CribbleCon 2025. So we're going to be in National Harbor, Maryland. It's going to be October 13th to 15th. If you don't have tickets, check with your rep. Tickets will be readily available. We look forward to seeing everyone there. I know I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at Emily and Anna's talk, so it's going to be a ton of fun. I really appreciate it. Emily, Anna, thank you for being here, and I hope you please come back soon.
Thanks,
Thank
Ed.
you for having us.
All right, everyone, have a great afternoon. We will be back with the Cribble live stream in the near future. Thank you and have a good day.